What's really sad is the guy whose house I stayed at, Nihad, he died. The guy who was translating with us, he died. And I think
So in this video, I talked to a guy who got smuggled into Syria,
We're now going to make our way across this river and into Syria.
covered the entire Syrian conflict on his mobile phone, went through so much,
Hearing loud explosions now not far away from where we're staying.
and then went on to land a job at CNN, Hindustan Times, and some of the biggest news agencies in the world. Currently, he's running his own media company called Scene that is driven to take human experiences of different kinds of people who go through different kinds of tragedies to the masses.
My name is Yusuf Omar and I'm a mojo, a mobile journalist.
Yusuf is one of the most interesting characters that I have ever met.
I wanted to be a foreign correspondent in Syria and they said I was too young. I wanted to tell stories across Africa and they said it was too dangerous.
He's revealing his experience of being in the war zone. So check it out right away. Starting off, let's just dive deep into the meat of this entire thing. And for me, you are the guy who covered Syrian war on mobile. So tell me about it.
we went in, I was working for E! News Channel Africa, which was a South African television station. And I had found out about an NGO called Gift of the Givers. And Gift of the Givers were trying to get in to build a hospital in the province of Darkush in Idlib. We went with them through Egypt and into Turkey. And funnily enough, from South Africa, we left with 2 bulletproof vests. But I think arriving in Egypt, the authorities took one away. They were like, hey, you can't have bulletproof vest. They didn't catch the other one. So we ended up actually arriving in Turkey with 1 bulletproof vest between myself and a colleague of mine. His name was Joe Kamane.
So we're now on our way to the border between Turkey and Syria, where we're going to attempt to cross.
And we were in Turkey for a couple days and we couldn't get permission from the Syrians to enter. So eventually we had to go in illegally, go on a long bus ride, eventually taking rides on like the top of tractors.
Crossing the border into Syria on an old tractor. No customs, no passports.
Eventually get to a river.
Just got off a tractor. We're now going to make our way across this river and into Syria.
And there's like a big metal tin containers that they use for oil. They carry oil.
Yeah.
So you sit inside one of those and then they pull you across the river with a rope. That's how we made it into Syria. And we get to this place. And
The entire South African team are now within Syrian borders. And we're now making our way to Darkush, where the hospital lies.
we get taken into people's homes.
Now leaving the hospital as these gentlemen drive me to a house where we'll be staying with somebody who lives around here.
For example, this guy Nihad, his house, he basically gave to us and he sent his family to Turkey while we were there, which is like the kindest gesture you can imagine, right?
We're not staying at a hotel or anything. It's a war zone. We're staying at somebody's house. Every night we walk back, always somebody walking with us. This time a group of young boys.
Imagine giving up your house and sending your family away so that...
And you knew this guy before moving in?
Never met him before, never heard of him before, and we're staying in his house.
Wow.
We get there and we've got all this broadcast equipment, these satellites to broadcast and all that, but none of it is really appropriate for covering a war zone. Like you can't really set up a tripod and you're catching rides on the back of motorbikes and in ambulances.
About 10 minutes live crossing and we need to get to the top of the hospital because there's signal up there.
And especially the most intimate moments when you're in your bed and you're hearing explosions and stuff happening.
This is by far the most scary part of the trip thus far. We're hearing loud explosions now not far away from where we're staying.
You end up capturing most of that on your mobile device, right? It's the most intimate connection you have. And it's also the most discreet, where people forget the camera's even there. Right from the first day we arrived, where we were setting up the hospital, a missile took the top of a mountain off that was just above us.
A mortar strikes a neighboring mountain.
From the very get-go, it was clear that we were in relatively close proximity to conflict, and every day we saw people coming in from the front line.
It wouldn't be the only time I would see the victim of an accidental shooting.
We had the opportunity to visit people's some of the soldiers' homes that were full of weapons.
Now we have lots of different rebel groups, no unity. Will it get worse? Because now they will fight amongst each other.
After just over I think 10 days, we left Syria, and what's really sad is the guy whose house I stayed at, Nihad, he died. The guy who was translating with us, he died. And I think that I would never do that again. I'd never go back to Syria, and I'd never cover a conflict like that. But it certainly lit a fire in me that like those stories had to be told. I mean, Syria today is still underreported massively, and that I thought that the opportunity to do that was to train communities to do it themselves.
Got it. I have a question, follow-up question. Often when you don't know what it will be like when you reach there, you take these decisions of just jumping into it. Had you known a lot more about what's happening on ground, you might not. So for example, now that you've experienced it, you're saying that I will never go back to it again because it was horrific, right? So do you think that was one of the reasons that you said yes in the first place? Yes, you were passionate about it, but at the same time, probably you didn't know what it's going to be like, and when you went there, you realized, okay, this is horrific.
I mean, no, when you're, there's a few things. I think one, I mean, there's a lot of reports around young brains have underdeveloped sense of risk, which is why young people take broader risk. I think when you're there and you're in it, there's just so much happening at once that it doesn't quite settle in just how dangerous it is and just how scary it is. It's only afterwards when you really start to process that information and look back where you're like, wow, that was actually a really close call, or I'm really lucky to be alive in this instance.
Got it.
So yeah, hindsight's a bitch like that, I suppose.
Got it. Awesome.